Yeah, welcome back to the newspaper review on High Impact Television, and we're joined by Mr. Sheson Okwade. Good morning, Mr. Sheson Okwade.
Good morning, Olumide, and good morning, Sarah, and
Good
good morning to
morning.
all our viewers this morning. Trust the weekend was splendid, even with the economic hardship.
Right. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Sheson Kwade. Um,
All right, so, sir, let's quickly get on with the newspaper headlines this morning. And let's start off with the Daily Trust. Concerns mount over Tinubu's directive on grains. I like to take the second rider here, which says 24.8 million Nigerians risk acute hunger. That's by WFP and FAO report. First of all, I want to ask, how did we get to this level? And what can be done immediately to avert this?
Okay, thank you very much, Olumide. When you talk about food security, it's a problem that we entered into because of the level of insecurity that pervaded the land in the country. You and I understand that we have the resources, we have the best land to grow some of these food crop. And even when you are not doing mechanized farming, that is even being the new order in agricultural produce, people that are meant to do even the traditional ways of cultivating some of this crop, insecurity have actually taken them off the farm land, and the farm produce are really not being done. You discover also that some of the very few that are being produced because of the level of insecurity, even when you are trying to take it from the farm to the market, some of them are being destroyed, some are being hijacked, and you discover that the people that have actually invested a lot in getting some of those things will not be able to recoup their money to reinvest some of those things that they've actually done. So these are fundamental issues that must be addressed. I heard about the president order of issuing hard grain, but
yeah.
I asked myself, how secure are the farmers that are willing to go back to the farm to get these things, done? If your office where you are is not secure, or the road to your office is not secure, I'm sure we all say safety first before you continue with the other work. So I think safety is what needs to be addressed if we must move on. It's not just providing those things, because if those things are being provided, being promised by the government are provided, who and who would definitely go back to the farm to get some of those things done. It started with the Northeast. Well, I'm sure you know the level of insecurity has pervaded to every sphere of this nation,
Right.
the Southwest, the
Sheson Kwade.
Southeast, and everywhere.
Sheson Kwade,
Thank you very much.
yeah, I'm going to
Yes,
come in.
Sarah.
I'm going to come in on that last point, talking about insecurity. Now, we know that this is not the first time we've gotten headlines or conversations about how farmers, rice farmers, there was a time it was trending with rice farmers, were really attacked on their farmlands. Some of them were killed, some of them, their produce was taken away, amongst a number of things. And now, according to the government of the day, the reason for this release of grains and fertilizers to over 50 million households is to mitigate the impact of the subsidy removal or petrol subsidy on its citizens. At what point right now, talking about spreading these grains, like you mentioned, insecurity, at this stage as a nation, what should be done in order to protect these our farmers and the agricultural sector at large, because it seems like the agricultural sector is going through a lot? What can be done to, you know, mitigate these things on the agricultural sector and the farmers?
Yeah, you heard when the president charged the military apparatus, the Army, the Navy, Air Force, and the Ministry of Defense in making sure that they re-strategize on their approach in attacking some of these bandits and the bandits and some of these terrorists that are attacking the farm. We've had a very few of herdsmen attacking. And the question you ask yourself, these are two armed of agriculture. For those that study it, we have the crop and you have the animal husbandry. So why will you use one to affect the other? I think the area of focus also should be let the government work out is to make sure that those that are rearing the animals, cow and the likes, that move from one farm to the other are curtailed to a particular position in such a way that they can have their ranch and make do with the space that the government is giving to them. I know there was a challenge, there was a conversation around government producing those things, and people challenge that it's a business on their own that they must invest in, not them asking that you move from one place to the other and government comes to your rescue. You must have taken the lead by making sure that you provide some of these things before you ask the government. So if we can have a balance where some of the herders are curtailed to a specific area to raise their animals, and the farmers can, yours truly go to the farm to get those farm produce out. If you need any of the farm produce, then you buy. It's part of your cost as a business owner to give to your animal to feed on. Not that you'll be taking them on a long distance, and there is civilization, and we must just address this position the right way it should be. Once this can be settled, whatever we give out to the people, then we can get dividend of it. I can tell you that I don't even know how the next quarter will be. This is the rainy season when we expect that there will be so much produced in town. But because of the level of insecurity, a lot of people have held back, diversify into other areas, and we have just very few people. And the economics of things, when the supply is not as much as the demand, definitely the cost of things will be high. So as we speak, the demand for food is higher than the supply that we are getting, and there is nothing that we can do. We must have it at a very high cost.
Okay, Mr. Sheson Kwade, I'd like to take you to the Punch headlines. Workers kick as governors borrow 2.2 trillion naira from banks. Now, I'm not even going to question why they are borrowing this amount, but my question now is, are there no other alternatives to which states can generate their own funds? Take, for instance, if the tax that is being generated from each state, instead of remitting it into the federal government coffers, can it be used for the state?
Olumide, I will start that all the states have a state internal revenue service, and they are saddled with the responsibility of generating their IGR, internally generated revenue. But the major problem which I consider as an issue is the cost of governance, cost of government, cost of governance. You discover that every political appointee, what they have attached to them can definitely take care of so much. They are not actually cutting their cost, but they are encouraging the citizen to cut their cost. And some of the money that actually goes to them, hiding under level of providing employment for people that work with them, rather than, minimizing it and investing in infrastructure, you see that happen. I can use Lagos State as a practical example. We may not have it all, but you remember that majority of the revenue, maybe I will take you back to Fashola's regime. People, have this reporting of paying their taxes aside the payee that the people deducted. And what actually motivated them, you see everywhere in Lagos, they will write their taxpayers' money working. I'm sure Lumide, you see those things there. And people were actually encouraged that, okay, I can see my money working in the provision of road, in the provision of health center, in the provision, and they are able to give more. And that's why Lagos will pride itself as the a state that has the highest number of revenue. Remember, during Asiwaju's regime, it was stiffened that they could not get allocation from the federal government, but they survived. So you must fulfill the social contract on the part of the citizen, and that will build the trust in them to pay those taxes. But situation where they see that the government officials are living large and the citizen are suffering, what they would do is that most of the funds that they are supposed to pay as taxes, they would rather divert it to do other things. You know, we are self-government on our own. We provide our water, we provide our road, we provide our electricity, and every day. So people will tell you that these are things government is supposed to have provided. If they are not providing it, I would rather withheld or should change the government in payment of taxes and get some of those things fixed myself. So governments must up their game in such a way that they can fulfill the social contract on the part of them to the citizen, and that will build the confidence of when you know that even your colleague or your friends are not doing that, you encourage them and say, but you are enjoying the amenity provided by the government, why are you not paying the taxes? And you can hold, but when you discover that it's failure all around, you are the one that you are putting resources to buy transformer, to develop electricity, to build your road, they are all bad. You provide water yourself in the house, and you buy solar system to make sure that you have power supply. Then why do you want to pay government? What is then the responsibility of the government to you? So these are areas that I feel that government need to work on, improving on fulfilling the social contract to every individual, providing the basic amenities, infrastructure that is needed, and you earn the confidence of the citizen in paying the taxes, and then you definitely get revenue to run the government.
Right. Thank you for that in-depth analysis there. But let's talk about the fuel situation. I'm sure that it is hitting you as much as it is hitting every one of us. I can say that right now. But earlier on, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited attributed this rise in the price of fuel to market forces. And they have been talking about how the market forces are responsible for the price of this petrol going up. And there are speculations that it could actually go higher than the current rate, which is at 617 naira. Though some fuel stations are selling for as much as 620, 630. Now, what should be done in order to ensure that these market forces that have been quoted as being responsible for this hike in the price of fuel, you know, the market forces are actually regulated, and we do not see a case where we are going to 700, 800, 900 or 1,000 naira per liter? What do we need to do right now?
Yeah, Sarah, I think it's a big question, and I want to say on the part of our leaders, there are a level of insincerity. In as much as we are part of the people that supported the action carried out by the president on the day of the inauguration to say subsidy is a scam, we don't understand what it's all about. Can we do this in a different manner? Part of the caveat we added to that is, can we have a refinery functional in such a way that the crude oil that you are selling out, you can, you know, make provision, even if it at the market prevailing rate, to be produced locally. If nothing will reduce, at least the cost of freight of bringing those things into the country will not be included in the cost that you are going to sell to the populace. Also, the other produce, the other byproduct that you get from the processing of the crude oil to PMS and DPK and other things can be used to develop other arm of the government, which on its own will guaranteed, you know, more revenue for you. Remember, we should, bitumen is one of the byproduct, jelly is one of the byproduct, fertilizer is one of the byproduct of this crude oil if it's processed here. And you can imagine, if not for Dangote that started his private district, we're actually importing fertilizer at a point in time of which we can actually have within ourselves, produce it here, and even sell to other nations when we are self-satisfied ourselves. So I think the problem we are faced with, the forces of demand and supply, it's not the problem. We feel that it should be deregulated, but we might continue to have the hike in that prices because the major area where the fuel stuff rides on is foreign exchange. And if the foreign exchange keeps increasing, there is nothing anyone can do. The cost of that particular product will continue to increase because the cost at which you bring it in will be the prevailing market price. Don't forget that while we are enjoying subsidy, what they've been doing is that they buy at the official rate of about 400 naira. And now, as of this morning, I learned $1 is about 820 or 840. Yes. So if you go that route, you discover that if you are a businessman bringing in that particular product and you have to source for foreign exchange, that means the cost of you bringing it in will be very huge. But imagine if we domesticate it and we are refining it locally and people need to buy. You are not buying in foreign currency, you'll be buying in Naira. So if you are even to buy at 300 or 400, you know it's your Naira, and that will strengthen, you know, the currency. But practically, we are not producing anything. And it's not only the fuel that we are bringing in, everything that we consume this day, none is being produced there. Even the toothpick is even being imported. So at what point do you want to reduce the pressure on foreign exchange? So if we don't reduce the pressure on foreign exchange and we keep importing and importing, putting pressure on it, we will continue to have hike in that particular thing. And I think government should be intentional in making sure that our refinery are fixed. And even if it is the one that has to do with Dangote, can we have the full operation of that to make sure that at least we have the local production, even to sell out to the neighboring country at a reasonable, be better for us.
Okay, Sheson Kwade, just to correct that, this morning dollar is at 876 naira. But now let's talk about businesses. You know, businesses that are operating within the environs, businesses that are operating in Nigeria. Sometime last week there was a headline that was talking about how a lot of businesses would need to migrate. They are planning to migrate and leave the country. And we know that somehow these businesses also bring some sort of revenue for us as a nation. So what can be done, you know, so that we do not see a mass exodus of businesses that are beneficial to us, you know, in the nation?
Yeah, you see, I keep saying it that we have good policies. When it comes to implementation is a problem. Sarah Olumide, I can tell you for free, it's a very challenging time for every business owner as we speak. If you are the one that relates with clients, it's difficult for you to increase the cost of your service or your product because even the people that enjoy that product do not have the financial strength to carry out that particular thing. Talked about affordability of your service to people. So you discover that most organizations have decided to stay within the range of what they've been offering before now. But how do they sustain the staff?
Are you there? All right, I think that's
we've lost it.
Yeah, so sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
They've been having the issue of trying to juggle, you know, activities of staggering the workflow. But how do people like you that have to offer 24/7 service even cope with the trend of things? It's not a smiling time for business owner. But I can tell you, until government is intentional, and the focal point are two areas that I always emphasize when I analyze. Is the area of power. Power is that of petrol. Power is that of energy that you make use of at home. If you are not even going to make use of alternative power supply, can we have even the main power from the grid being supplied so that people can have production in what they are doing? Practically everybody rely on alternative power supply, either generator or solar, to make sure that they survive. And those things don't come cheap. I'm sure you know the cost of diesel. If you are not using diesel, you know the cost of
the cost of diesel is actually competing. It's competing with the cost of fuel right now. Diesel and fuel.
Yeah, they are even at par because diesel is about 620 and petrol is about 617. So imagine people that before now have been using petrol generator and they have to be buying as high as 620 at diesel. And you know diesel is favorable. It doesn't consume as much as petrol. So that means they might have to abandon their petrol generator and go get a diesel generator, which is also at a cost and is impacting on the business. So it's really not an interesting time. But what we've always been asking the government to do is to be sincere and be intentional about making sure that we have our refinery functioning. Is the process. Petrol plays a major role. Power plays a major role in the activity of everyone. If the power is functional, you discover that the artisans on the road will get back to base and do what is needful for them and contribute to the bottom line.
Right. Sheson Kwade, you know, there's still a number of things to talk about this morning, but time will not permit us, and we would have to wrap up the conversation with you. But we'll definitely have you some other time to continue this conversation, because it's quite an insightful one. Thank you so much for joining us on The Review this morning.
Thank you very much, Sarah and Olumide, for having me. And the best of the day to all our viewers. I want to encourage people to please try as much as possible, manage their health, create happiness for themselves so that you can enjoy the benefit of the nation when it starts unfolding in a positive way.
Very important. Thank you so much for joining us.